Ellie, obviously I'm going.
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Michelle McBride, who I know for many years in high school. Michelle, it's great to see you. Welcome to Think Business. I appreciate you being on the show. I want to give everybody a background of what we're going to be talking about today. Michelle's the CEO of GoodSport and Nutrition, GoodSport.com. And here is a quick backstory. She developed GoodSport as a solution to a problem she perceived in the sports drink category, the lack of an all-natural sports drink that provided effective hydration that was also delicious and refreshing. I'm not going to get too much into the backstory because I want you to share it. But it's so great to see you. I know we talked the other day briefly.
So good to see you.
But I want to talk about, really, before we get into your backstory and how this all came about, I really want to talk about your mindset of, entering a crowded arena. I think a lot of times people have ideas. They look at the landscape and they say, that's crowded, that's crowded, that's crowded. I'm not going to do it. And yet it takes that special entrepreneur to just forge ahead. So what was your mindset just kind of entering the space?
Well, I wavered for a while. Am I really going to do this? And it wasn't, and the number of people, so anyone who's in food and beverage, I'm sure will relate to this, that people talk about how hard, CPG is. But when I was talking to people about the fact that I was thinking of launching a new beverage, they would be like, a beverage? Are you crazy? And then when I would say it was a sports drink, literally had several people say to me, run, don't walk, run away from that. You will never succeed. And so the reason that I decided to give it a try anyway, and I'm telling you, dozens of people use those words, run, don't walk, was because we came up with something that was very different. For real. This is the first, real innovation, true innovation in the sports drink category in half a century. And it works. Yeah. And so we are providing this better product, and I can, give more background as to what it is, but we're providing a better for you, better working sports drink. Yeah. And that's why I said, okay, we can do this. It's worth the effort.
Yeah. I love it. And so you enter the arena, which I love. And that's great. Now let's go back and just kind of talk a little bit about you, the entrepreneur. I'm going to get into the GoodSport, sure. But I'm just so intrigued by entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs that launch something post kind of during pandemic, because I think, pre-COVID studies showed that by the year 2030, 85% of all jobs that exist do not exist today. And I think COVID fast forwarded that. And I think one of the things we're going to start seeing in this decade because of COVID are people really tapping into their personal values and tapping into their entrepreneurial spirit. And so I just want to talk about your backstory for a minute, right? So you're an attorney, you're a nonprofit exec, you're a mom, you're a wife, you have a life, and then you embark. So just kind of take us back a little bit and then tell us the backstory about how all of that road led to here.
Okay. So I'm an attorney. I practiced law for many years and left the practice of law and became a nonprofit executive. I helped launch Stand Up to Cancer, was the president of the Noreen Fraser Foundation, a women's cancer organization, and was working as a director at a nonprofit in Chicago at the time I had this idea. My son, and the idea came to light because I have 3 children who are active in sports. And my son in particular, every time he would go to a baseball game, would be offered a sports drink that's filled, one of the traditional sports drinks that's filled with artificial ingredients. And I didn't want him drinking that. It wasn't the way it didn't fit our lifestyle. We're healthier eaters. It just didn't work. It just didn't work for us. And so I started bringing him chocolate milk as a healthier alternative for after the games, because chocolate milk's a lot of athletes use chocolate milk to recover. And I thought, well, what if we could use milk to create a sports drink to provide hydration? And did some research, learned that milk is packed with electrolytes and the right balance of carbohydrate to provide effective hydration, and that scientific studies had shown milk is more hydrating than sports drinks and water. So I was like, wow, we could actually make a healthy sports drink out of milk. And so that's where the idea started, okay? But it was when I came up with the name GoodSport and recognized I could use the brand as a larger platform for social good than just creating a healthier, better sports drink. That was very important to me.
I love that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about that for a second, because I'm a big believer that, when you are in alignment with something, then it's just people are attracted to it, faster. It's when it's more in alignment with you. It holds the energy of what you're talking about. And when I first saw this on social media that you were doing it, I thought, God, how has nobody come up with that name already? It's such a great name. So talk a little bit about how, because I think a name is critical for any business, right? And so how did you come up with that name and know that it was in alignment with not only the drink, but your vision, your purpose, your soul, et cetera?
So my partner, Andy Friedman, who is the founder and CEO of Skinny Pop, and we were trying to come up with names. And we have a list of these horrible names that we still laugh about, because I had reserved, the URLs on GoDaddy. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at what's expiring. I can't believe we even thought this.
How many URLs do you have?
For GoodSport,
just
or like the old ones in general?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot. Dozens. Yeah. A lot.
I registered 3 today that I had an idea of. Yeah.
You just go and you get the name and you stick with it. And so I had met someone who has a consulting company, and that's what they do. They help companies come up with the names of their products. Sort of interesting.
Yeah.
And I said, Andy, should we use them? And he said, let's do this. Let's give ourselves a deadline of 2 weeks. We will spend 2 weeks trying to come up with names. And if we can't, then we'll go hire this company. We were trying to be, efficient with our capital. And so, all hours of the day and night, texting back and forth, our spouses, our kids, everybody was getting in on the action. Yeah. One day I woke up and I was talking to my husband. One of the things that I knew, I wanted to try to have the word sport in it, because with the mass array of beverages that are available today, you go into any grocery store, pick your store, there's this huge wall of beverages, and you're like, what is this? Like, you can't tell the kombuchas apart from the protein drinks, from the energy drinks, from the light spritzers. Like, it's really hard. And I really wanted people to understand this is a sports drink. So I kept coming up with these, bizarre names with the word sport in it. And then it hit me, GoodSport. And my husband said, that's your name.
Yeah, great name.
Yeah. And I still laugh with Jenny Friedman, Andy's wife, who says, as soon as I go, I think I have it. And she said, what? And I told her, she goes, drop the mic. You're done. And that was it. And that was, it really helped shape too our brand and the ethos. And it just made everything I wanted to do be able to bring it to life more. So
it's great. It's great. I love it. And talk a little bit about, you get the name, your packaging is so, your packaging has such a powerful, just athletic feel, it makes you want to kind of, do something and then have the drink. And so talk a little bit about the power of packaging.
Yeah. So our packaging did not start out this nice. We have been through many iterations, as I'm sure many entrepreneurs will tell you that they have lived through. And it's funny, the stripes, I really always wanted, again, to be screaming from everywhere. This is for athletes. This works. This is for you. And sort of that universal appeal of the athletic stripe. And so, we were able to incorporate that. And just wanted, to have a real clean pack that says this is a clean product that's going to be good for you. So we hope that that's with delicious flavors, and that's where the bright colors come from too, because all the hydration in the world doesn't do you any good if you don't actually drink it and get it in your body where you need it. Yeah,
I want to talk. Some of the themes I'm hearing you talk about are, clean, being clean. Your kind of clean lifestyle. I'm the same way. We use that word all the time. Is this clean? Is this not clean? And the energy of that, and once you came up with the name, it kind of fit with everything. When you are talking to people about it, because I think this is really important. I think a lot of companies get this wrong, right? Their name is not in full alignment with who they are. And the owners of the companies, if they're out of alignment, then it just trickles down in a negative way. With this, it seems so positive, and it seems that you can just speak about it so fluently because everything's in alignment and you didn't rush the process. And so I just want to talk about not rushing the process for all of those entrepreneurs out there who are, thinking, okay, I got to get this done today. I got to get this done today. I talked to so many people who try to rush the process before they get it fully in alignment. And so I just want to kind of tap into that for a second, because I think, it's really, really important step.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, I just want to say something about the name. I'm thrilled that we have this name. I love this name. The name is resonating. Yeah. But another friend of mine with business experience made a really good point. What's an Oreo? You could do great things regardless of the name of your product. It has to do more with the brand messaging and ethos of the company. Yeah. And so getting that right is an iterative process, and you got to be patient with it. And I know I'm the biggest to-do lister. I'll have my 40 things I want to get done, and I just want to cross it off. I want to cross off this little, I wrote the blurb for the website, cross that off. The mission statement, cross that off. But sometimes you got to sit with things and see how it feels and how it rolls off your tongue. And, we have been, and so you want to start in the right direction, but give yourself that freedom to make change. Yeah. And I think that that's where it comes from.
Yeah, I love that. And the importance of pivoting. I wonder if an Oreo would be as popular today if it was invented today in such a crowded space, right? I think today we have, the attention span of people is less than a goldfish, and so, which is 7 seconds. And so, I think messaging is so much more important for newer products than the ones that we grew up on. But speaking of growing up, I want to rewind, to when you were a kid, right? So I work with a lot of C-level execs. I work with managers and salespeople and this, but I also have a lot of college kids calling me and, asking me questions about business and things of that nature. And so I kind of want to rewind back when you were a kid. Did you think that you would be, were you born an entrepreneur? Did you learn how to be an entrepreneur? Just kind of talk about, what you thought your path would be business-wise versus what it is.
Such a great question. So, no, and I have a daughter that's looking at colleges right now, and she's getting questions asked like, "What should I major in?" And what I keep telling her, and I tell other young people that age, is leave yourself open. When I went to college, I thought I was going to become a teacher. I took a business law class my freshman year. Loved this class. Loved the law part. I loved reading the case law. And my father is an attorney. And I said to my dad, "Do you read case law?" I had no idea what went into, because you're young, I didn't know what went into becoming a lawyer, but I learned that I absolutely loved the study of law. And all of a sudden, I knew for a fact I wanted to be an attorney. Soon, halfway through that business law class. And so, and then I had this opportunity to leave the practice of law and go into business. And I went, oh my gosh, my eyes are open.
Yeah.
I'm never going back to being a trial attorney. I am going to be in business. I love it. And I also had this remarkable experience that I wish everybody could have. But when I was working on Stand Up to Cancer, it was just an idea that several women had. And these wonderful, powerful women, including Noreen Fraser, had this absolute can-do, literally the sky is the limit attitude about anything, to the point where, and if you're not familiar with Stand Up to Cancer, it's a large movement to fund cancer research, translational cancer research, and every couple of years they do a big televised event on all the networks. And this was the first time it had ever been done. And somebody thought, well, what if we were to put the Stand Up to Cancer logo on the space shuttle, because the space shuttle was taking off right around the time of the show. And I thought they were joking. I laughed. A week later, we're at NASA talking about this. And sure enough, during the show, the astronauts stood up in space, floating around. And there was something about that experience that said, there is literally nothing you can't do if you put your mind to it and try to figure out how to make it happen. John, I no longer have audio for you.
Oh, here we go. Sorry, I hit my mute button by mistake. Okay. On that note, that's a great story, by the way. And Stand Up for Cancer is an incredible organization. Yeah. So thanks for the beautiful work you did with them. On that note, I think about 7% Fortune 500 CEOs are women. I think this year studies are showing that that's going to go up 1%. As a CEO who is a woman, as a father who has a daughter who's 14, who I know is going to do incredible things, and for all of the daughters out there, what can everybody do to get more women in the C-level suite space and more women, following your footsteps, starting companies and in the CEO space?
So what can be done is this. Number one, girls, you can do anything you want. And I think that there's a lot of wonderful messaging out there, right? We have a female vice president right now. There is literally nothing you can't do, including getting, astronauts to stand up for a fundraiser. Okay. Yeah. But you know what, guys, we need you to step up. My partner, Andy Friedman, whose wife is a doctor, whose partner in Skinny Pop was a woman, or is a woman, and have support for these women. Husbands, support your wives. I got to a point during this where I looked at my husband and I said, okay, I'm going to break. I cannot possibly, there's only 24 hours in a day. I can't possibly launch this business, make all the dinners, do all the grocery shopping, book all the kids' doctors and haircut and, sporting appointments and all these things. I can't do it all. And he said, great, let's sit down and divide this up. I will go grocery shopping. I was like, what? You will? But listen, these are the things that make a difference, that allow women to do more. And we've all read about the women. So many women have dropped out of the workforce during COVID because they are the ones who are expected to stay home with the kids. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I have 3 children too. I worked from home yesterday so that I can make sure I oversaw that they were getting their lunch and getting on their Zooms and things like that. But, there's got to be this more equitable distribution of responsibilities at home to free up women's time to do more in the office. Yeah. And that's how we'll get greater activation. I think Sheryl Sandberg did a really good job talking about that in Lean In. Yeah. And I said, you know what, that's right. I'm gonna put this into practice. And so our house, my partner's house, it's, that's how you get more women to be able to do more.
All right. Amen. Think community, everybody step up. All right. Now let's talk about you and get back to the business for a minute. Sure. So, you're talking about innovation. You're talking about, a new way, a new drink. Talk to me about how you got into. I'm echoing for 1 second. There we go. Talk to me about how you got. Tell me about the innovation of the drink. Tell the Think community about the drink in general, and just I want to hear about the science and everything about it.
Great. So I mentioned, I wanted a healthier sports drink option because my son was an athlete, but I also come from a family of athletes, and I have friends who, play from, the youth leagues. Some are still playing in over 40 leagues, friends who've played professionally. And one thing that I know about athletes is they'll do anything to, take care of their bodies and help improve performance. Whatever the newest superfood is, that's what they're eating, right?
Absolutely.
They get on a court, a field, a rink, whatever it is, they'll just grab whatever's closest by to hydrate.
Yeah.
And it doesn't jive with really their lifestyle or their sports nutrition needs. And so when I read the study, there was a very big study that happened to be released a few months before I had this idea that demonstrated milk is more hydrating than sports drinks and water. I just realized this is something all athletes need, not just my kid, right? At all levels. And so that's where
all levels, all ages, all ages. Yeah.
Our target market is not children. My inspiration was my son, but the target market is really our core target market is 18 to 34-year-olds who are active and care about hydration to improve their performance. But taking milk and turning it into something that can be consumed, in a refreshing way. I have one of my drinks here because when I get thirsty, but this is to take milk and then turn it clear like we have, so that it becomes a refreshing sports drink, was no small task, especially for somebody that has absolutely no food science background, certainly no dairy science background. And so that's sort of where my experience as an attorney came in. The first thing I did after getting validation from my partner that this was a big idea, that could disrupt two potential huge categories, dairy and sports drinks, is I said, we need an expert. Who am I to make any claims about the hydration efficacy of a drink we might put together? And who am I even to talk about the validity of that research I was reading? And so the first thing I did was get an expert, find an expert. And so Dr. Bob Murray is our chief hydration officer, who's been with us from the very beginning to help oversee the development of the drink. Dr. Bob was the founder and director of the Gatorade Sports Science Institute for over 20 years. He's literally the godfather, a godfather of hydration, literally written the book on sports drinks. And so when I met with him initially, he just said, wow, I know the research on milk. Yes, milk is packed with electrolytes, has the right balance of carbs. I saw him in his head doing all the calculations. He said, I just can't. And not only do I know the study you refer to, I know of a dozen other studies that show milk is more hydrating.
Yeah.
I just can't believe nobody's done this before. And so we started on our way. If the packaging early prototypes weren't great, the formulation prototypes were, I was going out with my little cooler to hockey games in the city and CrossFit gyms and just letting people try it. And we had developed these wonderful flavors with this great flavor house that we work with, but it was still milky. It wasn't there yet. And so we worked with the Center for Dairy Research at the University of Wisconsin, which is the premier dairy research really facility in our country. And they helped teach me a little something about milk and how we could use ultrafiltration to remove the proteins and fat from milk, which aren't needed for hydration and which could sit in your gut. Milk is great after a workout, but before, you don't want all that protein sitting in your gut when you're trying to work out. You're going to have some cramping and things like that because it's slower to digest. So how do we remove the protein, but harness the electrolytes, carbs, and vitamins? And so that's what we did into this clear beverage. So cool. And here's the other wonderful thing about it. Dairy companies ultrafilter milk by the millions of tons every day to harness the protein and use it in products like protein powders, whey protein powders. Then they dispose of the part of the milk that we need to make GoodSport.
Yeah.
So we're able to rescue and upcycle that part of the milk to make our drink, which is the main ingredient of our drink. So we have a wonderful sustainability story that goes along.
That's so cool. I love the story. I love the science. I love the fact that you're surrounding yourself with other experts where you need to bring them in. I think it's great. Did you ever see The Food That Built America on the History Channel?
I saw parts and I haven't seen the whole thing.
It's great. Yeah. So they just came out with season 2. It's worth watching. It was just about Kraft American cheese. It's so good. And then there's the cars that built America, the men that built America. Hopefully now they'll kind of get with the times and do the women that built America, right? So it's a question before we go into a speed round. I keep on calling you Mac, but I've known you for a long time.
Childhood nickname, no problem.
Right. But what's one thing you learned about yourself starting this company?
I'm tough. Yeah. I've taken a lot of hard hits.
Yeah.
A lot of hard hits. And I'm sort of proud of it because I have managed to bounce back. I don't know how, but I'm pretty tough.
Yeah. Well, resilience is a main ingredient for being an entrepreneur. And so that's a tough one. Where can people buy your product and find it? And who's your ideal customer?
You can find it on GoodSport.com and at Amazon, and we'll be rolling out in the Midwest this spring in retail at select retailers, but available nationwide on Amazon and GoodSport.com. And our target, who is this for? It's for anybody who needs to hydrate properly. Yeah. I mean, one of the things we didn't talk about was the scientific testing that we had done at a top tier university that demonstrated that GoodSport provides significantly long lasting hydration after 2 hours after it's consumed. And this study was peer reviewed and published in a prestigious journal this summer. So we are,
you're the real deal.
Science.
Yeah. Okay. You're the real deal. Yeah. I love it. I love it. All right. Michelle, you ready for a quick speed round?
Sure.
All right. Favorite book and why?
There's too many, but basically anything by Brene Brown, everything by Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah. I mentioned
two great authors. I just want to comment, both great authors. Brene Brown is to me an all-time.
Dare to Lead. You pick up these nuggets from each of these books, and then the individual. Even I loved Howard Schultz's book, Pour Your Heart Into It.
Yeah,
it's hearing the entrepreneurial story and the struggles and the grit they had to get through it, and you take those and you remember when it happens to you, like. It's okay. It happened to him too. It's okay. You can get past it. Yeah,
it's a great book. Howard Behar, who was the former president of Starbucks, I actually had him on the show a couple of times. He wrote a book. It's not about the coffee. That's a great one. And I was just on, and she was on my show, Kara Golden, with Water. Her book is great, Undaunted.
Yes.
I
just ordered it. It's actually sitting on my counter.
Yeah. Uh-huh. All right. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
Go ask. This is from my father. Go ask. I was a first-year lawyer making a pittance in a salary. And I said, Dad, I need some more money. And he said, what are you talking about? I put you through college and law school. You go ask your bosses. Yeah. And so it's just like the Stand Up to Cancer example I gave. Hey. Just go ask. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Absolutely. As a coach, and I'm not doing keynotes right now, but when the keynotes get back, I do a lot. One of the things I talk about is if you want to double your business, double your asks. And I talk about the power of asking. And then I give some examples. I'll give one at Home Depot. I ask people, of the 4 checkouts, which one sells the most warranties, and everybody tries to guess and everybody gets it wrong. It's the self-checkout, because the computer doesn't have any emotion to asking if you want it or not. And tips. And then I talk about tips being up, how much tips are up since the credit card machine. Just ask if you want to leave a tip. And people guess, numbers, but it's about 1,100+%. And so I talk about if a computer can ask and keep on asking, so can you. So I love that. Last question. Fast forward 100 years, Michelle, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that I was a honest, caring person, that made a difference in this world.
Yeah.
Or at least in the lives of the people that I care about.
I love it. I love it. Michelle Meckler McBride, GoodSport.com. Michelle, it's I have a couple final thoughts. Here's a couple of my final thoughts. Think community. It's really important, if you listen to what Michelle talked about today, to make sure that not only do you do something that your soul is kind of guiding you to do, but that you allow yourself the process to make sure that everything resonates and is in alignment with your soul and your gut. Don't take no for an answer. Be open. Find what you love. Surround yourself with the proper mentors. Have courage, and just love what you do. It's been a pleasure talking with you, Michelle.
Thank you for having me, John.
Yeah. I'm so excited for the growth of your business. I'm so excited to watch it just explode over the many, many decades ahead. Thanks for having, and Think Community, you can tap into this. Thanks for having the courage to keep going when everybody else said no. That's a really difficult thing to do, and you did it. Michelle McBride, GoodSport.com, nationwide. Michelle, thanks so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.